Okay, we are back for our first draft of set 2. I've actually kind of avoided a lot of the spoilers for this set, so this will be as new to me as it will be to some of you guys. So, looking at the old cards first. Wildfire Maiden is fine. It's certainly a card that I have gotten a little more mileage out of than people seem to expect, or than a lot of people seem to, at least. Some of the people I've talked to. Energy Prison's an okay card, but it's nothing too outstanding. Cultivate is fine. Well, okay. Cultivate is really bad, but it is at least interesting. Flesh Fiend is one of the best cards in the first set for draft. One of the best heroics, at least. So that leaves us with Heartseeker versus Tactician as far as the new cards. Heartseeker is very interesting. It kills things with exactly as much health as it has. Its stats are decent, kind of vanilla, mediocre, slightly under the bar for each level, but only slightly. It has Defender, but it gets its ability, which is an interesting ability. Nexus Tactician is kind of the flip side of the Battle Tactician, and that instead of giving plus strength, it gives plus armor. I feel like this is not quite as good as plus strength would be, but it's still very interesting. And Battle Tactician was also one of the best couple cards for draft. I think that Tactician is definitely better than Heartseeker. I feel like Flesh Fiend might be the strongest card out of these options. However, I really want to play with some of the cards from the new set, so I'm going to go ahead and take Tactician just so I can see what some of them are like. In addition to building my collection, but this is definitely more about trying new stuff. Okay, so all old cards here. We can take anything. I know, the most people's favorite pairing in the first set was Aloyn and Uterin, which would give us the Glowstride Stag. However, I don't want to tie in just based on old assumptions. I want to kind of try and see with new cards, which means that my favorite two of the cards just on their own power level are the Mystic and the Banshee. So I'm probably going to take one of those two. Mystic is very definitely an aggressive card. It's not good at being played in front of something. I think I'm going to take the Banshee and see where this goes. This certainly could be wrong, but I feel like it's definitely one of those two. Alright, so Aloyn and Necrene can both be pretty good at a relatively slow deck. Of these options, Heavy Artillery is probably the weakest. I like Metaslight and Technosmith. They fulfill the same role, and I prefer Technosmith, I think. Although, again, that could be arguable. And Technosmith, Tech Upgrade is fine, but I feel like Technosmith is good for a deck that kind of wants to build toward a long game. We don't have a win condition necessarily, but it's certainly a start. Alright, Gloom Spireworm. If an opponent controls no creatures, it gets bigger. The amount it gets bigger is the same at all levels, which is kind of interesting. That card is pretty interesting. Matrix Warden, however, is one of the best cards from the first set. I feel like this will trigger about a third of the time. I feel like it's probably not actually worth it, especially over a card that's as strong as the Matrix Warden. Right. Zithian Hulk is not amazing, so Gloom Fiend, however, seems pretty reasonable. It shrinks things kind of like the Banshee I already have does. However, it shrinks them in any lane, and it's also an Abomination, so there's some possible combination there. Definitely going to take it over the Hulk, which is okay, but a bit boring. So, okay, now we see a lot of new cards. Interesting. Destroy cards at random. That's cute. Metamind Adept, we know. Let's try the Peace Walker. Let's see what that is. Gains armor for that turn. So you kind of drop it in, hope to pick something off, and then you get kind of an equivalent of an injured body for next turn. Death Current is rare, I guess is the Solforge name for it. Uncommon in Magic terms. this will allow me to draw cards when the creature is destroyed on a relatively mediocre body. I think I prefer the Metamind Adept to it. I'm not entirely sure, but I think the body is slightly preferable, and being able to have a little more control on when you draw the cards is nice. Okay, Hindermine. That's interesting. That actually seems pretty good. It puts some of the Sonic Pulse kind of cards on a mediocre creature body. The body is just mediocre, but it's fine, especially given that it shrinks all the opponent's card. Metamind Operator, huge toughness, not great power, but that combination will trade with a lot of creatures, so that's still quite good for a common. However, I think it's probably between one of these two, either Death Current or Hindermind. I think I'm going to take the Hindermind just because it does resemble a mediocre, like a decent spell, but you also get a creature body, whereas Death Current, it seems like it could be okay, but you don't get a body for it, so it's a bit mediocre. Alright, Corpulent Shambler. 5/7/15. Pretty decent for a common as far as getting two bodies out of it. Kind of like a better Fellwalker, although obviously it's just different because, you know, the Fellwalker is the same on the front and back end, whereas this is bigger on the front end. Kind of the flip side of the Death Seeker in that way. Okay, so Call a Week is good in our deck because we have a couple of things that shrink opponents' creatures. Actually, we have kind of a lot of them between Banshee, Gloomfiend, and Hindermine. Question is it worth... of these, I think it's between Call the Week and Shambler, because I am fairly impressed with that body. I think I'm going to take the Shambler just because that seems like a slightly above the curve creature, plus it gives you a 3/3. So Call the Week would be good in this deck, but I think I want to see the Shambler. Again, I'm favoring new cards just because I want to try them out. Alright, we know Mobility is very good. So this body looks pretty good. Its toughness is weak, so it won't trade with as much as like the robot from the first set with Mobility. The Thunder... sorry, my mind is blanking. It's kind of late at night. So I think I'm going to try that. Gloom Reaper, which again is interesting with all the shrinking effects we've got. But this feels like a pretty good way to move around and get damage in. Yeah, I think I'll try that. The Witch is interesting, but I kind of want to see where this goes. Okay, so between Guardian Alpha and Fellwalker. Fellwalker is good, but it's unlikely that we'll get a million things to support it. I think I'm just going to take the Alpha. Could get a Jetpack, but even if not, it trades pretty well. Okay, here's a good level 1 creature. Alright, this creature seems to be decent at all levels. I prefer creatures with a little more toughness, of course, but this is a pretty good way to trade up. Who would have guessed it? Okay, so Sonic Pulse is definitely a card that I like. Bladewalker's fine. Zombie Infantry's fine. We've got 2 6-power creatures if you count the Matrix Warden, which I do. Meta Transfer is a very interesting card. It's less removally. It is interesting that it's different than the Sonic. Like, it is a similar role from the Sonic Pulse, but I want to try the leveling bit on it. That sounds pretty interesting. So I think I want to try that over the Sonic Pulse because they fulfill similar roles despite being drastically different rarities. But I want to try the new card, and I do really like things that let me get extra levels. So, okay, so I know I like Banshee. Again, Shambler seems pretty darn good to me. Scout seems fine. Operator does seem okay. Seems pretty good, especially at level 1. It's decent at all levels, though. I think I'm going to take the Shambler here, but that could be wrong. Alright, just making a creature's attack 0. I think while this is an interesting removal spell, it actually seems pretty good. I think I'm going to take the Jetpack here. We already have a Forge Guardian Alpha. The ability to move things around is nice. Okay, so at level 3, Dusk Spire Zombie is quite good. But at levels 1 and 2, it's mediocre. We do, however, have a couple of things that can level it on their own, so I think I'm going to try taking that. Drone and Pulse Mage are both reasonable picks. Pulse Mage is pretty good. But I think I will take the Dusk Spire Zombie just because we have both a Technosmith and a Meta Transfer to level it. Okay, we're actually pretty low on 6 power creatures, so I'm going to take this one here despite not liking the Scorpion that much, and it just doesn't level well. Alright, Aether Guard is good in spell-heavy decks, although its stats are just okay anyway, so that is worth keeping in mind. Alright, we've got Deathweaver being the most powerful old card. Soul Harvest is fun, of course. Deathweaver is good with our 2 Corpulent Shamblers. I think the Deathweaver stats are comparable with those of Aether Guard, which is otherwise maybe the strongest card in the pack. So I think I'm going to just take the Deathweaver just because its stats are strong and there's a chance that it'll come up. Right, the Hinder Mind is the card that shrinks all of our opponent's cards. Notably, we don't have a ton of good win conditions. We've got Shamblers are okay. The Dusk Spire Zombie is pretty decent. But I think I'm going to go ahead and continue to take the Hinder Mind just because, again, all of these things that shrink, this one comes with a reasonable body, so it seems like it's a pretty valuable card. Okay, so Matrix Warren we know is good. Fellwalker would go well with the Deathweaver we just got. Spirit Leash is an interesting card that works well similarly with things that make 2 bodies. Like, if we had more Fellwalkers, I would be more interested in the Spirit Leash. And Metamind of Explorer is reasonable, but not amazing. I think I am just going to take the Matrix Warden. It's just very good. It is essentially a 6 power creature. And it lets us kind of mix and match what we need. Alright, Overwhelming Force is interesting. Also interesting that the 3rd level would not necessarily be bigger than the 2nd level, which is cute. Okay, we don't have many spells. This is an interesting way to buff all of our creatures. I think I'll take this just to try it out. I know I've said that a lot. Alright, Sap does seem like an interesting removal spell, so I'll go ahead and take it. Right, Scared. Let's see what this is. Alright, so this is good if we're also playing a Terran. So, if we have a Terran card in hand, we get both effects. That seems pretty good if we did, but obviously we don't. Assassin's Final level 2. We got a couple more 6 power creatures. I'm kind of thinking about the Duskspire Zombie just in case we can get the top level. Is it even that much better though? It's a decent amount better. 5, 8, 10. I'm definitely curious about the Duskspire Zombie, so I think I'm going to check it out. A little bit tempted to take the Esper Scarab just because it's a more rare card, but, you know, I'm recording a draft. I should just play what either is good or is interesting. But Okay, so this is a card that has good stats and is good at leaving the middle lane, which is cute. Vengeful Spirit's fine, but these stats are awfully solid. I'm definitely going to take this. Okay. So, Ossuary Spirit. Decent, not actually defensive card, but a card that is good at holding a position. This would be very good if we had a lot of buff spells, which we do not. We have Overwhelming Force, and that's it. As well as our... actually, we've got a couple Matrix Wardens, so that wouldn't be too bad. Alright, Ghastly Renewal. Interesting that they spelled it without an A in Renewal. Deathseeker is good, and we know we have our Deathweaver, so that would be good. Explosive Demise would be good if we had more things that wanted to die, but that, again, Explosive Demise is a very specific kind of card. It is good against specific things and is okay in a very specific constructed deck, but doesn't necessarily hold up. So, question is Ossuary Spirit good enough? I think Deathseeker is just better, especially because we've got the Deathweaver already. Alright, Gloomspire Worm. Still does not seem better than the Spectre, which definitely grew on me a lot. We do have a fairly weak level 1, so we'll have to be careful about that. Hopefully we can stay alive. Alright, Meta-Minded Up. Can help us draw through to some of our other stuff. I'll take the Worm just to see how it plays, but I'm not too excited about it. Alright, I'm tempted by another Technosmith here, but I think I want to just take a Justicar. It trades well, it's got good stats, and it can be a good answer to some stuff which may or may not be big in the metagame. Technonome, interesting. Kind of like the 5599 1717 that exists in the first set in Aloyan. Sorry, in Utera. Interesting. Light Shield Patrol works well with our Matrix Wardens. Technonome is good after level 1 if we can get past it. Tell you what, though. Light Shield Patrol is actually about as good at every level, and its first level is less embarrassing. So I think we'll take the Patrol here. Alright, happy to pick up a Banshee. Fellwalker is also interesting. Is one Deathweaver enough reason to take that over a card that shrinks and kind of gives value in that way? I think the Banshee's a slightly higher pick. If I had 2 Deathweavers, I'd definitely take the Fellwalker. Okay, so we picked up a Jetpack, so I'm extra happy to pick up an Alpha here. So the double Alpha helps us with our ability to play toward a long game, which is good, because we had a fairly weak level 1, but hopefully the couple of the cards that we got will help that. All right, and Charnel Titan is very good with the Banshees we've got, and the Hinder Mines, and the, there was one other, at least the Meta Transfer. Definitely going to take the Titan. I like having a Meta Site in my deck, but Titan seems particularly good in this deck. It's also good with Sap. Alright, so I will be back in a minute with the first game of the second set. Hope you guys are as excited as I am. By the way, sorry this video is taking as long as it is to record the first draft for the second set. My computer has not been working until today. So, alright, I'll be back in a minute.